Okay, and there we are. Okay. Let's see what time we got here. 6:02. We'll wait a couple more minutes, make sure everybody is in and here who wants to be in and here, and then we'll get ourselves going. Do any of the readers have questions about the order or anything like that?
No, my first set may be just shy of 7 minutes.
That's fine. And if even if you're a little over, that's fine too. We kind of
Well, the second set runs a little long,
lucked. Okay, very good.
maybe.
Let's do, okay. Joan is trying to monitor Facebook and yeah, she's having trouble getting in. We'll give her a couple more. We'll give her a couple. There she is. There we go. There's Joan. Get Joan in. Hi, Joan.
Hey, the Facebook link is not working.
There's people messaging and writing comments, and so I mean it's working for some people
Okay,
that way.
I couldn't get in, but I'm glad people are able to. Hello,
Yeah, yeah.
everybody.
Let's uh let's go ahead and get started.
Okay,
So good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is our first attempt at something like this from the Writers Guild. My name is Tony Brewer, and I'm the treasurer of the Writers Guild. And along with Joan Hawkins, we pre-COVID, pre-lockdown, had been hosting for about 3 years. We've been hosting a monthly spoken word series at various venues around Bloomington that incorporated different types of spoken word, poetry, prose, storytelling, radio theater, some hybrid experiments and that sort of thing, and generally live music as well. And so we took about a month or so to sort ourselves out And this is our first attempt at doing something on behalf of the Writers Guild in this virtual, online, Zoomed, Facebooked um, method. And so this is an experiment for us too, and we're kind of playing around with the format a little bit as well. So we welcome your feedback. If you're here with us in the Zoom, I believe the chat is open. Feel free to leave comments and let us know what is up. If you are watching live via Facebook on the live stream, feel free to comment and let us know, what you think about this tech-wise or sound-wise. If things don't sound good or look good, please let us know. And to those of you in the future who will see this as a video once it's all done and posted um, to to Facebook in perpetuity. Feel free, please, to let us know what you think of it. Give us feedback. The Writers Guild at Bloomington is a not-for-profit, and so if you are interested in donating to the Guild, we always are after donations. Typically, we get donations when we do these events live out in the public. We're now not able to do that now, so if you are feeling it, please feel free to. You can get there, go to our website, the writersguildbloomington.com, which is all one word. I posted the link here in the chat on Zoom. I will also now put it in the comments section uh, there on Facebook as well. But just as important as supporting us, like I said, we do all these events around town, supporting the venues that support us and allow us to do these things. Um, supporting venues that support us, like Bears Place, like the Back Door, like the Blockhouse, um, places that the Monroe County Public Library, which is also closed right now. Please consider reaching out to any of your favorite venues, especially the ones that host us, but any of your favorite venues. They're, everybody's struggling, everybody's trying to figure it out right now. So anything you can do to support any of your local artists, any of your local venues, please consider doing that. I had a couple of things, little business keeping things, the housekeeping things I wanted to talk about. Any updates to things that we're doing, please check out our website. And if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, Jonah's been sending that out weekly now to give people updates on what's going on in the arts. Even though all of our events have been canceled or postponed, we do try to keep you up to speed on what is happening with the arts as far as um, support for artists and arts organizations from the city of Bloomington and from the state. So feel free to check that out. Our third Sunday right workshop is working on keeping things going by email. So if you're interested in the third Sunday right, contact Shauna Ritter. Um, and I'm not going to give out her email address, but you can contact her. You can find her contact address by going to the website, and there's a little note there about Third Sunday Right, so you can find out about that. Our monthly business meeting, which we handle like everything else virtually on Zoom, is Saturday, May 16th at 3 o'clock. Now, this is a business meeting for a 501c3 not for profit, so not not everybody's cup of tea, but hey, if you're interested, you should definitely contact Joan Hawkins, who is chair of the guild. And again, you can find her email address on our website as well. I think, Joan, did you have anything? Did you want to mention anything at this point?
No, you've covered most of it. I did want to say though that the newsletter's actually been coming out almost twice a week during the pandemic, and I have been using it as a clearinghouse for information for people, both about services that are available to artists and writers who might need money or support, and also about the local businesses that need our support. So you can sign up for the newsletter on the website. You don't have to send us any money to get the newsletter. So please do. And if you have, I'm also using it as a place where people can, in lieu of being able to have the open mics that we traditionally have had, I'm using it as a place where we publish work by people. So if you have poems, especially those of you who are working to death during April doing National Poetry Month, please send me your work and I will put it into the newsletter. And I would also like to give one special shout out that I put in the newsletter today, but my good friend Michael McClure passed away 2 days ago. And so we've lost another important voice. Thanks.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks, Joan. Okay, well, I say we get things going. Let me switch over to Jason Fickle, and I got a little thing. So, guitarist Jason Fickle performs with Jason and Ginger and the VLF Trio, among many other groups, and has provided live guitar accompaniment for several silent films at IU Cinema. You know his sound, and you love his craft. Jason, take it away.
I want to dedicate this song to the great Mike Kelsey. This was one of his favorite songs, Michael Kelsey, who's no longer with us. And it's not a anti-hoarding song, although it is called Don't Forget the Milk and Bread. Well, Jasper sent me down with $1 and a dime. He says, there's things I've been needing, boy, and now is the time. When you buy the grits, why don't you put them in an envelope? 'Cause I got a new way of burning them, man, it's called rope-a-dope. Now rope-a-dope grits taste just like caviar. And Jasper says soon you'll be licking them from the jar. But Jasper don't let it all go to his head. He says, oh, don't forget the milk and bread. Now Jasper said to Jojo, your nose is always in that book. But all Jojo had for Jasper was a very disparaging look. 'Cause Jojo pours over that Bible like a racing form, handicapping ponies from before you were born. And you know the trifecta that Jojo plays the most? It's Mary and Martha and the Holy Ghost. And the Savior's words all spelled out in red. He says, love thy neighbor, but don't forget the milk and bread. Now Jojo listens to Junior everywhere she go. 'Cause Junior's got his very own radio show. But the station keeps on fading in and out. Ever since that FCC license been in doubt. And Junior's working hard, just trying to make amends. Since his sister badmouthed the mayor and his friends. And the mayor's lackey took down every word she said. But all he could make out was don't forget the milk and bread. Now the mayor says that Jezebel's the fairest of them all. And he keeps a picture up down at City Hall. But Jezebel's own mirror just keeps on breaking up. 'cause she hauls it around in the back of a pickup truck. And folks just love to watch that glass bust over the side. Don't tell Jez to slow down, we already tried. Jezebel don't like people staring in her bed. She says, why don't you mind your own milk and bread? Now Jezebel says to Johnny, you can do what you like, as long as you're out of the house on Saturday night. So Johnny goes down to that 7-come-11, 'cause it's an ice cream sandwich and a stick-up heaven. Now the night clerk keeps only 20 in the drawer. Take it up with that day manager if you want any more. So Johnny paid for it all with a president long dead. And then the night clerk said, don't forget the milk and bread. Don't forget the milk and bread. Don't forget the milk and bread. Thank you.
Yeah, give you some virtual clapping there. Thanks so much, Jason Fickle. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jason. And we'll hear a little bit more, a little bit longer set from Jason a little bit later. So our three features for tonight, Luanne Holiday, Tim Heardink, and Eric Rensberger are, normally we do sort of longer sets. We wanted to do something a little shorter this evening, again, as we're kind of shaking the dust off and seeing how this works. So people are going to, it's not quite round robin, but we're just going to do kind of a short 20-minute set here and do a little bit from everybody. So first up will be Luanne Holiday. Let me find you here, Luanne. There you are. I have to kind of scroll through everybody. It's great because there's a lot of you here, and it's awesome. And I've got a little something, so Luanne Holiday writes poetry and other stuff to help her make sense of the wonder and worry of the world. She tries to pay attention to things, and writing helps her do that. Luanne Holiday.
Thank you, Tony. And I've forgotten that I've written that about myself. So I think it especially applies now. It's great to be here, even virtually. And I'm going to be reading in this first set. Well, I'm going to be reading most of what I'm reading I wrote last month for Poetry Month. So thanks to Joan for mentioning that. And when possible, I'm going to mention the prompts that I worked from, because I did work from prompts. And this first one is, the first couple of poems I'm going to read are about process. And the first is in response to a prompt that asked us to write about poets or poetry that inspired us. And so that's where this comes from. When did I wake up to poetry, I wonder? With Dick and Jane and Spot, the words were stolid, but something in the rhythm laid the track for me. See and look and go and up and run and run and run. Dark marks on the page, the strokes, the serifs, the beautiful face of the type. The shapes of words were candy in my mouth and more familiar to me than those blonde kids in their clean world. And so that's called When Did I Wake Up to Poetry? And the next piece is older, and it's also about process, different kinds of process, including writing. Compost the words, let them settle in a pile. Some brown and brittle, kindling, ready to go up. Some green, hot, acid, angry, rank. Mind the insects, the grubs and flies, shy roaches, centipedes legging it through the layers. Trust the process. Slop the bucket and bucket the slop. Trust the breakdown, the breaking down, the perpetual, never finished transformations from dank mold, from poisonous possibility, from sodden disappointments, into richness, into mysterious, ordinary material out of which anything can grow. All it takes is all of it, is time and patience and the brute strength to dig and to turn. And that's compost. I'm a fan of compost, by the way. So the next poem, it comes from some stuff I put down on paper last month. And every April, as I'm writing through the month, I try to do or attempt one or two sonnets. And so this is an attempt at a sonnet. And also it's a bit of nostalgia from back in the day. And it's called Mixtape. The piquant pleasure of quirky choices and a slow build, track by track. Just me, the vinyl, and the sweet cassette. Blank slate, virgin tape, no pressure. Just my taste distilled, decanted to a TDK, with titles scrawled on little lines, lest I forget which song is where, sides A and B preserved in ink. First listens on a road trip, you in the driver's seat and me, feet on the dash, waiting for that first cut, kinks, to blow your mind, as your long fingers take the beat. Every segue shifts the gears, no popping of the clutch. English beat to Mother Maybelle, improbable but right. By sundown, Bach, it's PDQ. By Chillicothe, a touch of Don McLean, waters of Babylon in the Ohio night. Those tapes, they filled the miles, each one a kiss, love letter with liner notes, ciphers of our bliss. So that's Mixtape, a sort of sonnet. Here's another one that came from a prompt from last month. And the prompt had to do with working a lot with rhymes and words that sound similar. And I had fun with it. So it's called Another Harpy. My homespun wings span horizons east to west. I'm a world bird, thief of grief, dowser of deceit, earnest messenger of solace and comfort. I'm honest, tough. I remember the remainder. I take no shit. I'm gruff and rough, apocalyptic, dyspeptic, and yes, it's fair to fear me if you've earned it and your name is Jared or Donald. Still, spare me a prayer, place with grace one of my dark and weathered feathers on the local altar. Strike a match to catch your own fires, but save a spark for me, a long, strong shadow overhead. So that's Another Harpy. And the last piece I'm going to read in this first set is older. And but when I was looking through, thinking about what I wanted to read, it seemed to follow on nicely from the Harpy poem. And so this is called Crone Road. Somehow I missed the middle, the halfway point, the great divide where I should have stood to mark the moment of perfect equipoise and gazed upon my lost horizons and future prospects, acutely aware of how I fit into my landscape and how much was left for me to map. I know when the middle wasn't. It wasn't when I knocked out my brother's teeth at 6. It wasn't when I learned to drive stick at 16. It wasn't when I spent a night of my honeymoon nursing a sick VW on a Florida highway at 23. But it's somewhere back there, lurking, posted in a letter, or lying beneath a fruiting tree in spring, or lodged in a barren 3 a.m. of some night I couldn't sleep, restless, not knowing that I'd marked a turn, swung through a roundabout that threw me, flying in slow motion from Ingenue Avenue to Crone Road. So that's Crone Road, and thanks. That's my part of the first set.
Thanks, Luanne. Let's see, there we go. Spotlight me. Yeah, I like that you have these little. You only have two, but on Zoom, if you're not familiar with Zoom, you have two little emoji reactions. You've got the thumbs up, and you've got like the claps, so that you can like clap. So I don't know why there's just the two, but there's just the two. Our next feature this evening is Tim Heardink. Uh, Tim is the author of the poetry collections The Human Remains and Red Flag and Other Poems. He is president of the Midwest Writers Guild and has several poems in Poetry Quarterly, The Fishhook Shared Words, Distinct Voices, and The Eye of the Storyteller, and All Poetries on Earth as It Is in Poetry. He currently resides in Newburgh, Indiana, and with his wife Amber, daughter Audrey, and their two cats. Let me get back over here and find Tim. There we go. Tim Hearding, folks.
Thank you, Tony. And hello, everyone. I'm going to read plenty of poems out of my new book, The Human Remains. So it's a hard week for me right now because I'm dealing with the loss of my mother who just passed away. So a lot of these poems will be doing, I mean, they kind of have themes of loss and whatnot, but I have a mixture. So I'll give you some different sets tonight. This first poem is called Unthankful Givings. This past Thanksgiving, I skipped each dish and friend I did not miss, an event to give thanks in place for a trip far away across the sea to a distant land. Forget this year and forget its plan of taking every person from me who used to hold my hand. As I cry an empty man, time shows that my mental wounds will mend. These things the world gives need a receipt because I do not wish to receive, wish to proceed not in this tragedy. If I could rewrite the ending, would it make a difference? Or should I look back thinking of my love lost in remembrance? Evening recedes into the deep, leaving a dawning sun to enter positively with a leap. My tongue becomes less numb, stumbling for the right words to say. Thank you for this new day. And I have a little haiku that I based off of an Ezra Pound poem. It's called Mourners at a Wake. Scattered drops fall in the gathering of black clouds and tulips. And I started writing poetry. I was a number of years ago, inspired by W.H. Auden and his poem Funeral Blues. So I wrote this poem called Funeral Blues 2. Wind up the clock to the next hour, for it's that time of year again. Keep on moving closer to mahogany doors with their constant glow, whispering little lies until the black appears and suffocates. See, I didn't always want to be a poet holding a fistful of scribbles meant to be something worthwhile. My past passion saw the directions of funerals, picking up the passed away and preparing them for the great long rest. So many gone and countless services, and yet the best I had to offer the dead, sweet eulogies when nobody else could find their tongues. Yes, the world must move on as it always does. Time cannot be caught, no matter how hard we try to make it stop. There are so few grains, but still we can do some good. And I have some newer poems that are in a manuscript I'm sending out to some publishers. This one's called Trauma. It looks like trauma, but it's like about my dreams and stuff. And this is for John Berryman. Surface tension bellows a soft echo of muffled ruffles when the body hits the water at full speed from the buildup. One towering bridge standing over 70 feet can offer a professor whose intelligent mind feels reduced to nothing but a nuisance. Some students say they saw Berryman wave as he descended toward sweet relief, almost in celebration of the chapter to come, and his grand farewell to the witnesses. Henry and Mr. Bones would weep and not sleep for 100 years for the loss. I have this dream of meeting the dead poets who urge me to confess my own in formal and free verse for others who have written notes hidden to be found by loved ones or respected peers. My pieces echo, I didn't, and I didn't. They can't fire us, for we are the choosers in this game of outcomes where all must roll the dice like Plath, Sexton, Snodgrass, and Lowell to see how long one must endure the cycle which only ends with the inevitable black. A constant worry that only subsides when the host ceases to care and if the mess the body leaves after trauma has been inflicted upon it to free the caged bird whose voice can no longer sing the songs poets hoped would never fade to silence. Us artistic types seem to live fast and die away before biology tends to let expire. And yet, if we didn't cultivate a lifetime's worth of beautiful expression to fight all that tears society down daily, who else would offer to bear the crushing weight? So I'm currently at my parents' house dealing with the situation of this week. And this house always was kind of weird to me. I always believed that it was haunted. And so this poem's called What's Left Over from the Haunting. Enter the shell, which used to be called home long before you held your baby girl, after the city forced a relocation, an attempt at a new beginning. The structure, walls where love lived, while another force sat dormant at the end of your bed, watching sleeping occupants as breath came and went. For half a decade, the belief that residual apparitions after an intervention of biblical measure found peace like troubled children when the tired parent finally notices they've gone missing. A 12 gauge meant to claim an entire family, but only took the father who forgot the first rule of self-preservation, still resides upstairs along with the man who knocks constantly on the plaster. He's waiting for his loved ones to come home. This will be my final poem for this set. It was just published in Poetry Quarterly for their winter 2019 issue, and it's called I Suppose You're a Prisoner Too. Rusted metallic bars slam behind as I step forward in my cell. I'll call home the rest of my span. On the slab for a makeshift bed lies a photograph. It is of the last visit I spent with my mother. So many years with offerings, tithings, and prayer paid back in the form of a mess on the brain. Sitting in her wheelchair, holding a forced smile, this is what it looks like to be a faithful servant. On the opposite wall hangs another of my daughter in her ever-glowing youth. She just wanted to play. How many sands have I poured out of the hourglass, chasing a shave of notoriety in the strength of my words? They love you unconditionally and see you standing tall until too many letdowns break that curtain of naivety. Upon the stretched flesh of my bicep remains a portrait of my wife, myself, and my late grandmother smiling. Years have passed since I've last held the grasp of her hands. The sun packed all its bags and left on a one-way trip. I see those beautiful eyes so excited on our wedding night. And I suppose you're a prisoner too, locked in this mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. And my condolences. I know you and I have talked a bunch about your mom, and I appreciate you wanting to be here this week. I know it's a really tough one. Tim and I were actually in the middle of a little book tour when the shutdown happened. My last reading was with Tim in Urbana, Illinois, back in like March 9th, I think. I think it was like a Monday. We drove to Urbana, Illinois, and read at the Iron Post, which was a great venue and a great time. So thanks, Tim. Thanks for being here. Our final feature in this first set is Eric Rensberger. You all know Eric. Eric is a local poet who has spent the last few decades adding to his chronological collection Account of My Days. His concerns are time, nature, and human folly and vulnerability. He writes poetry as a form of play he first learned in childhood. And let me find Eric. There you are. Eric Rensberger, folks.
Okay. Whoops. Am I muted?
I can hear you now.
You're
Yep,
okay
you're
now.
Okay.
you're good now.
Am I here?
Yes, you're good.
Okay.
You're never
Hi
muted.
there.
You're never muted, Eric.
Hi there. I'm glad to be here, and I want to thank Tony for doing and Kyle for doing the hard technical work of getting this set up. We're all missing a lot of our familiar comforts during this time, and certainly live readings, poetry readings is one. So this may not be the same thing as being in the same room, but at least we're trying. The stuff I'm going to read tonight, I'm going to read in the order in which it was written. It starts with stuff that was written towards the end of last summer and will gradually through the evening move through time to come up to the present moment. My first poem is actually a prose poem. It's called Reading. The article said, the public figure said, his intentions had been misrepresented by those saying negative things about him. I was reading in a hurry because I was fundamentally uninterested in the story, but thought it was something I should want to know more about. Because I was speed reading, I read intentions as intestines. They misrepresented my intestines. This was so close to making sense that I paused and reread the complaint about what was being said that was quoted in the article I was not really interested in. And I thought about what misrepresented intestines might look like. I took a sip of coffee, realizing that my reading was no longer speedy and that it had been slowed down in order to contemplate not something hard to understand or beautiful to read, but an absurdity that both confused and stimulated the imagination. Why do I push myself to read so fast, so early in the morning? I thought about my intentions. Lesson. A carpenter's son once told me his father said to him that a good carpenter is not one who makes no mistakes. Such a carpenter doesn't exist. A good carpenter is one whose mistakes will not be found for 100 years. A standard for poets, too. A good poet is not one who makes no mistakes. Such a creature is imaginary, one of the beasts invented by poets. A good poet is one whose poems will not be found for a century. This one is called Poem Ending with an Apology for Global Warming. I've held up well so far. All the noise I let myself hear and the truth I won't listen to, taken together, could be the reason why I keep claiming to know everything worth knowing and at the same time manage to plead ignorance whenever I need to. My full attention to one instant chosen for its emptiness makes the others go by fast. I thus participate in my own distraction, so that when I see more than one room of the house falling apart, it seems easy to say, oh, hell, why not burn the whole thing down, as so many have done before me. Autumn has fallen on us exhaustedly, wanting it all to be done with. August was dry. September went a pinch beyond that. Now things turn brown and drop. If I spit on the ground, it's not disrespect. I'm trying to make amends. Press release. I did not mean, and I did not imply, that I did not say that I had held my tongue. There were no assertions and no denials. Not even a twitch or a shrug escaped me to make it seem I had anything to reveal or to hold back. It is not even clear that there was a person there similar to me or me exactly who meant and said nothing. One of the things I'm pretty bad at is sleeping all the way through the night. I've been bad at it ever since I was a child. There are times when I'm better at it and times that I'm worse at it, but there you go. This is called On Reading in the Middle of the Night. Time stops at 3 a.m. Nothing moves, but everything is quietly alive. A sleepless wind runs over silent roads. Those alert enough to evade their dreams read the night as a history written in fantastic letters, moving like slow beasts. Each line leads to all the others, and any meaning is hidden deep inside the herd, hidden there with the proof that if everyone is alone now, 3 a.m. never ends. I'm going to close with this one. I want to say that in addition to live poetry readings, a good portion of my entertainment time in recent years has been taken up with live music events, so it's great having Jason here with us. It would be great to be sitting in a pub and having a beer in front of me as I listen to him play, but what the hell. At least he's here. Time. Music is a succession of disappearances. One note gone into another, the beat alternating with rest. Time passing through capture to release. Time vanishing into time. You can feel hanging in the air before the music, a pause large enough to hold all the emptiness ever made. The fiddler strikes a pose. The singer takes a breath. We ready ourselves for that which is to disappear into that large open space inside us, where all disappearances are brought together, memory and attention making one music out of what pieces come. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Wonderful. Thank you, Eric, and thanks to our three features. That was our first set. They're going to be back here in a little bit. Let us go now. Let us join Jason Fickle, who is already in progress. He's going to give us, I think, two or three here. Jason, take her away.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So inspirational to hear such great poetry tonight. Also, Eric is a great harmonica player, and I've gotten to play with him a few times over the years, and I look forward to the next time, whenever that may be. This song is one I wrote, and it's set in this county in the Delta, Mississippi Delta, called Tallahatchie County. It's called Most of All. There's a road from Tippo to Glendora. I can draw it for you on a paper sack. But I'm warning you, young man, you might have a hard time finding your way back. Sometimes it's that road I miss most of all. There's a church out in Vance called the Baptist True Vine. Hayes McMullen was a deacon there and a friend of mine. I tell you what, that man sure could play. Like hurry sundown to the break of day. And Sometimes it's haze I miss most of all. Like sometimes it's you I miss most of all. Here's the courthouse square in Charleston town. Sonny Boy started playing and the crowd gathered round. He made good money for a Sunday afternoon. Shouldn't have played it all, but he quit too soon. Sometimes it's Sonny Boy I miss most of all. Like sometimes it's you I miss most of all. I'm going to do a couple more here for you during this set. I'm going to use I have an electronic tuner here on the floor that you can't see that's part of the magic. When I was a kid tuning guitar, we had this thing called a tuning fork, and you couldn't eat with it. But it would give you a tone, and then you would try to match to it. And then I noticed kind of all guitar players in the world, their overall skill improved rapidly with the adoption of the electronic tuning technology. This one is called Remind Me. Will you promise me we'll never leave our slice of heaven? 1437 Rio Rancho Drive. Remind me how Tulsa is nicer than Bartlesville, and I'll remind you why Bartlesville is nicer than home. And when this old AC ain't cold enough, stop right here, put in another can of Freon. Was just the other day when Uncle Ray stopped by to say everything's okay after all this time. Remind me how Tulsa is nicer than Bartlesville, and I'll remind you how Bartlesville is nicer than home. Promise me how we won't leave our slice of heaven. 1437 Rio Rancho Drive. Rio Rancho Drive. This next one is called You Get What You Pay For. Here we go. Why does it seem like I sleep all day? Why can't I seem to keep a job that pays? I'm just like that clock you got from the raffle giveaway. It looks good, baby, but it's only right twice a day. I know it seems so sad the way people talk in town. I know it seems so sad the way people put me down. I'm just like that tattoo your friend did for a drink. Got a good outline, then it ran out of ink. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. That's right, you got me for nothing. Why can't I be nicer like the nicer people that we know? Why do I gotta mope around everywhere we go? I'm just like that tomcat you rescued out of the pound. You feed him so good, but still he piles around. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. That's right, you got me for nothing. I'm just like that moonshine your cousin sends from Arkansas. Makes you high as a kite, leaves you sick as a dog, baby. I'm just like that moonshine your cousin sends from Arkansas. Makes you high as a kite, leaves you sick as a dog, baby. I'm just like them pills that you took from your mama's purse. They settle your stomach, leave your headache worse. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. That's right, you got me for nothing. Nothing, baby. Nothing, baby. Absolutely nothing. All right, I'm going to turn things over to the MC. A lot of people know this, but MC is short for Master of Ceremonies. Thank you all so much.
Cool. Thank you, Jason. That was wonderful. Thanks so much. Appreciate you being here for us. There we go. I'm doing that thing that everybody does when they're looking for the setting on it's there somewhere. Thrilled to have Jason with us as we come roaring back online here. If you are just joining us, this is the Writers Guild at Bloomington Spoken Word Series. In the golden years, we did this live at various venues around town, most recently at Bear's Place on the first Wednesday of the month. And this is our first attempt in the lockdown world to try and recreate the a similar event. And actually, this roster of readers, along with Jason, was scheduled to happen today at Bear's Place at 6 o'clock. And so we thought, well, let's see if we can make this happen virtually with the technology that IU provides us as well as Facebook. And so we encourage you, if you are joining us through the Zoom, feel free to leave some comments in the chat about this whole setup. If you liked it, if there are things you didn't like about it, if there are technical issues that you're having. I know some folks on Facebook. Also, please feel free to comment there as well. Some folks were having, we were having, I think, some technical issues. Please feel free to comment on any of that, as well as let the poets and musicians know what you know. Send them some love. I think that's the operative phrase. Our features tonight are Eric Rensberger, Luanne Holiday, and Tim Heardink. We just heard from Jason Fickle, our musical guest. And we're going to get right back to the poets. They're going to give us another, we're doing sort of a round robin approach this evening. And so I believe our next poet is Eric Rensberger. And so, yeah, Eric, why don't you come on up?
Hey there. So, those of you who might be curious need to know or are allowed to know that the name of Tony's cat is Julie Newmar. So, if you want to say hi to the kitty, you have to address your comments to Julie Newmar. Going to start out with this one. This is something that's always good to know. What I wanted. I wanted to know it wouldn't happen again. I wanted to know the name of the last victim. I wanted to know when to keep my mouth shut and when to open it and speak. I wanted to use my ears one more time in spite of all their disappointments, in spite of how well designed they are to hold lies. I wanted those words to pass into them, which would make, once again, all we live easy to bear. This next one is called Autobiography Volume 6. And it is true that there are poems I've written that are autobiographies, volumes 1 through 5. I will just, for your reassurance, I will tell you that they're all pretty short. Autobiography Volume 6. Fire burns into its own heart. Smoke loses itself in the world. Just after sundown, the fire I made in last light burns down to embers, the smoke of it long gone, and all that's left is the ash it made of the sticks I burned, a ghost shape of branches that will be last to go after fire cools its glow back to dark and smoke disperses everywhere, nowhere. Last to go, last to go. Doing my part in global warming. I will turn loose my own little ice shelf into the wide ocean to make it wider. I will begin my own last migration across my own creeping desert. No more treasured herds, no more fat fields. I will learn to finish every sentence that begins, I don't know if I'm ready, should it happen that. This next one was written mid-March, as what was coming at us was just becoming kind of clear. And it was, kind of a nice spring morning. I like getting up early. I like sitting on my back deck. And after I'd written it, it came out kind of like a country song in free verse. I don't know. You'll probably see what I mean. To a bird. You must be on some branch of that tree there near my house. You show yourself by singing. All I can hear right now is you and one truck out on the highway climbing the grade. Two lone sounds in first light, carried through today's thick fog from droplet to droplet all the way to my ear. Two sounds make one music of the world showing a little life at this hour, and in the midst of so much fog infused throughout it, one music of a world set on beginnings. What we know now. We know how dangerous we are to each other. We know how we need each other. We know, as we didn't know before, how much we live in our hands, how we make our place in the world with them, how we need and touch and need and touch. Now we can't stop thinking about our hands. Now the things we've said with them are new again. For instance, give me a hand, or living hand to mouth. We now know that when we are forbidden to touch our faces come alive with a longing for our hands, an unbearable itch only fingers can ease. And we know now, as we know our own hands, who it is that is most necessary to us. And we know a new meaning of far away that is only a different way of saying apart. And in that longing for the necessary one, we know each other. We know the distraught distance each feels. We know how we need each other. This will be my last poem for this set. I began the first set with a little prose poem. This is also a little prose poem, so I'll wrap it up the way I began it. Distracted. I go to do the first thing, and in the middle of one of the early steps, I'm reminded by the actions necessary to carry it out of a second thing that I need to do but keep forgetting. So I shift to taking care of thing 2, and while I'm starting on that, thing 3 pops into my head. Soon, I'm jerkily moving around the house, every room, not staying anywhere long, resting nowhere. Thing 4, thing 5, thing 6. I realize that I'm being distracted by one thing after another, but what, I worry, is the master distraction, the one that sets them all in motion? Then it hits me. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the numbers themselves. The numbers keep going up, and there's nothing I can do to stop them. I want to live at peace with a world where the numbers keep going up. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Let's go directly to Tim Heardink.
Thank you, Tony. My second set for tonight will focus more on my Holocaust poetry. I have my first book, Red Flag, Another Poem, which I donate all the proceeds to the Holocaust Museum in Terre Haute. They just celebrated their 25th anniversary, so I'm hoping to keep the voices of the Holocaust alive. I recently announced that my third book, Raised Monuments, will be published through Finishing Line Press December 4th, so that'll be something to look forward to. My first poem of the set would be Lady in Blue for Eva Moses Core. Torn from her mother like two poles of opposites, childhood ended at the selection platform. With a mate from the womb, a pact to survive the frost, hunger, and slaughter among the endless obstacles that lay within the walls of hell. Staring the angel of death in the face as he poked and recorded the outcome, knowing that someday there'd be reason for dancing, hands in the air as the rest of the world cheered in victory, forgiveness the key. Eva founded the Candles Holocaust Museum and Education Center in Terre Haute, Indiana, and she had a twin sister named Miriam, and this one is for Miriam. It's called A-7064. A familiar stench drifts in the atmosphere of the parlor where I bury my face and contemplate the past and what comes next. Every inch must be sterile in its right place before my thought train can jolt to a halt. In 2019, bets are in your favor when you throw a dart at a bundle of people. The one who strikes you down in return bears marked skin for the sake of art or to belong, if nothing else. My bouquet has an eternal bloom upon my arm, never to wither and descend to dust, unless the rest of me follows. About 10 pieces into my transformation, and still there remains a flutter just as the gun begins to buzz. What went through Miriam's mind as Eva kicked and fought her tattooist? Knowing her number comes next, she could bring further Moses fury or sit and take the inevitable, the only choice to survive. So I'll read you one of my poems that's in the upcoming Raised Monuments collection. Pre-sales for it will go available August 10th, I believe. Let's see. This one is called Final Repose Before the Gallows. Block the light out from your eyes on this thundering night with its menacing cracks that flash like insults meant to pierce armor and belittle the sensitive hidden on the inside. Take all the oxygen possible while these moments allow such action. Men are preparing your knot just around the corner, painstakingly double-checking the adequacy to ensure the neck which holds your crime-thinking head snaps. Travel back to a time where the chance to share your voice, protest, act, vote, stand up saw no consequence, for you were free. A window of opportunity shattered by idle hands who figured nothing could get worse until it did. Now we're all in cages, waiting for our number to be called, so this dance of all dances can finally end. So some of these poems that I'm reading out my first book, Red Flag, and other poems that they appear in my Human Remains collection too. So if you like them, there's all over the place. But this is a good cause. I stand by. This one's called Easter 2016. It's after William Butler Yeats with the epigram, "A terrible beauty is born." It has been 100 years since the uprising west of England. Yeats is long gone, yet still taught as we all wear motley. Irish blood on our hands and in our veins continues to flow and spill. The Tower Messiah, with his choir crown, said, "Come with me and be free." The violet lilies expand upward in praise, and for nourishment, a rebirth for you and me, along with the rest, awaits as a hungry youngster does, when his father hands him a clean and empty plate. I travel quite a bit. I was going to go to Europe again this year, but with the pandemic going on, I think I'll have to wait till later on. This one has 6 different languages in it. It's called Apocalypse in Retrospect, Ein Spaziergang im Park. Heute ist es schön mit all the flowers in bloom. Ich query de diese bon dia au sol et bonsoir la lune. Yesterday the world here in letzte Tran. Now they kiss the tip of a gun. Mes amore e que processamos nishmleko shleb. Now nothing follows, and I'm the only one left. And my final one for this set is called Outside the Walls of Concentration. The date is October 2015, and you have lost part of your hearing. Your teenage great-grandchildren are a bother, always complaining every time they have to visit, as though you are a nuisance that should just fall over dead already so that parents can get what little you have left. Now you are 83, but when the war ended, you were only 13. Those little children have no idea of what you've seen. They pour fresh milk down the sink, and you remember the time when, for just one sip, you'd give anything. In 1943, just east of Germany, the horrors of Auschwitz-Birkenau awaited you. Your family was put inside the walls after being forced from the ghetto in Saget. The skin a little tighter on your bones, and yet you were still healthy. Deine Eltern waren immer noch mit dir. That was before the selection process began. Links, yelled the officer as he pointed to you and your mother, an angel who was too far broken for the factory. Your father stepped in, begging for your life, screaming, Sie kann arbeiten. You were spared from that death, but that was just the beginning. All the starvation and frostbite, witnessing the slaughter of a people reduced to numbers, made you who you are today. Even though you have survived, part of you still cries every time you see smoke rise, and you whisper, Muti. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Let us now have Luanne Holiday back for another set. Luanne?
Ah, yes, unmuted. I just really want to thank Tim and Eric for reading here as well. It's just a real pleasure to hear their work and to be in their company. So in this next set are some poems. As I was looking through thinking about what I wanted to do, I found myself drawn to a couple of poems about being on the road and traveling, because that's something that's not in the cards right now. And so this first poem is from sort of a postcard from the road. And it's from a long trip across the plains that my husband and I took a few years ago. And it's called Barbed Wire. Barbed wire is thin, brutal, efficient, and cheaper than board feet. All business. Sieve of the plains and prairies, it bites and catches what sails. Plastic sacks and paper bags, speared, battered, shredded in the wind. But not the birds. Driving a Kansas highway, I count kestrels, finches, sparrows, bluebirds on the lines, and the shrikes who spike locusts on the barbs for lunch. Ponies graze their shoulders and soft flanks, and pricked away, trot back to scrub and pasture. At 70 miles an hour, I can't see those rusted knots, but I know them, know they clutch strands of mane. Suddenly, I'm caught in memory, trespassing again at 13. Lift the high wire, press the low one, scoot under, catch my shirt for a right angle rip, a scratch, and blood. So that's barbed wire. And then the other sort of postcard from the road that I chose was from a spring drive southward. And green comes up a lot in my poems that I'm going to be reading, just because it's spring and I want to swim in this greenness. And so green is going to pop up here in a couple of the other things I read. So this is a note from Knoxville. Dearest friends, I have to tell you what I saw yesterday while driving south and slightly east, Bloomington to Brownstown, then on to Lexington and Knoxville for the night. Redbuds, not really red, but lining every highway with a soft magenta. Dogwoods too, like pools of sunlight in the woods. New grasses, soft leaves on almost all the trees. Splotchy sycamores are late to the party. Too many greens to name, as if I could. Plus, you know, lilac, phlox, cherries, plum, Juneberries. Deep dark cedars, bird deposited along fence lines or clinging to the tops of road cuts. Limestone seeping water through the strata, ancient ocean of I-75, high palisades that threaten rockfall. Spring wheat and hip-high waves that seemed so fluid I wanted to stop, wade into them, but then thought about trespassing and ticks. Swaths of seeded dandelions, sprung, ready for flight, diaphanous, transparent in the morning sun. Whole fields of mustard-colored weeds, French's mustard-colored, hot dog mustard-colored weeds, but by the 100-acre, a vision. red-winged blackbirds on last year's cattails, dark streams glinting through the hollows, weather-washed half-red barns, the tire swing painted pink, broad brown rivers roping through the landscape. Country signs, no trespassing, live bait, groceries, Jesus is coming, high-speed internet. And waiting for us in the Tennessee mountains, azaleas and rhododendron and hollies waited with bright polished leaves and hot red berries. Dearest friends, I have to tell you, go outside and look, forget about the poetry. It's spring. And that's my postcard from a drive south. So the next two poems were from prompts from last month, and I hadn't planned to write specifically to where we are right now, but it just leached into everything like it does for so many of us. So the first of these, reflecting where we are right now, is called In These Strange Days. In these strange days, I gather distance as I walk, wrapping space around me, wearing the same elliptical orbit of every other moving body in my current universe. Each of us swinging wide away from each other as if repelled by magnetic disattraction. In these strange days, I cultivate a thicker border, a personal DMZ, an unfordable Rio Grande banked by pleated masks that guard another landscape of brief kisses, shoulders touching, the embrace of friends or lovers long apart. In these strange days, I've learned to see the way the corners of your eyes lift when you smile a little. I've collected the shadows of your profile in the blue illumination of a screen. I've gathered your unmuted hellos to my heart as if they were spring blossoms in these strange days. And the last poem that I'm going to read in this set was a prompt to write a poem based on a dream. And I've been having really vivid dreams that are my response, part of my response to our isolation. Dreams that involve being in dense crowds, packed classes, things like that. And so this is a poetic rendition of one of my dreams, and it's based on an actual dream. And I was lucky enough in my dream to see my friend Beth Lodge Regal. So Beth is named in this poem, and Beth isn't here, but I shout her out in this poem. And this is called The Potluck Dream in Our Time of Pandemic. I never thought I'd have a dream about a potluck, but here we are. Or there I am, elbow to elbow at the casserole table, dissing the tabbouleh for the mac and cheese. Never have I dreamed so lovingly of a crowded room and cluttered plates with smears of butter, crummy with bits of baguette. Never have I longed, even in the depths of REM, for somebody's stuffy kitchen nook and the sad remains of a carrot souffle. But here we are, and there I am, suddenly in Beth's dining room, where I've never been, but here I am. Here, says Beth, leaning in close, so close that I can smell the remnant scent of her shampoo. Here, look at this. And she reaches in front of me, across and down, so close that I smell ironed linen and ozone in the fabric of her shirt. And suddenly, in her hands, displayed for me as if she were holding the work of an old master at a Christie's auction, is a box of marzipan fruit, sculpted and tinted, edible fakes fit for a queen, pears, apples, kiwi, strawberries, blueberries, bananas, oranges, lemon, grapefruit, and limes, gooseberries, kumquats, a pineapple, each nestled in its spot, just so. I am overwhelmed by the marzipan or by the unhindered proximity of a friend, or both. I ask, who gave these to you? And Beth says, I don't know. Is that not wild? But do you want to eat one? And I say, yes. Thanks.
Thanks, Luanne. So I think what we are doing now is all three of our poets are going to come back and give us an encore. I think if the three of you know the order, I won't come back up and reintroduce you in between. You can just come up and do your thing, and I will again spotlight you if that works out for you. So Eric, why don't you come up first and get us rolling?
Washing my hands. Sliding into each other's pockets, the deep gap between fingers, the shallow cups of the palms. They seem to know each other so well, these servants of my intentions. When I used them to get knowledge of the world, to find things in the dark, for instance, or to measure warmth or smoothness, I thought no more of them than of a tool. And I confess, shouted at them for their clumsiness when I wanted to put my own failure at a distance from me, as though we were no part of each other and they could carry the blame. But now I feel through them how warm water is and how it pleases to slide them over and over each other. I wash them as a way to care for myself and to feel a kind of prayerful blessing. I recite in only 20 seconds the names of those I have loved most and try to believe in my hands, in what they still have left to do in the world, cleanly and with great skill.
Okay, I think I'm next up. And my last poem is the last poem I wrote during Poetry Month. So I got this on paper on the 30th of April. It always returns, the green, pea green, lime green, dogwood in the morning green, new grass green, the just born leaves of maple and tulip and late oak extracting themselves from every node in multitudes. The green births itself after the long dark. And even though I know in my bones that the wave is coming, reaching back to me after the last ebb of winter, I'm always surprised, driving down some rain-wet city street under a low gray April sky, surprised to wake up to freshness, green dripping green, greener than a green Crayola, juicy and tender, both a crack in the heavy horizon and a treasure in my pocket, something forgotten, then rediscovered, a gift I never ask for until I get it. It always returns. Thanks.
All right, I think I'm up next. Okay, this poem I wrote is the first poem I had in my series for National Poetry Month last month. It's called Rejuvenation. And it's my thoughts, I guess, looking in on the pandemic. Clenched tight the quarters and close quarters when pandemic split hoods like axes for fire fuel in the dying age of frigid weeks before spring brings warmth and a chance to unmask and reveal. Numbers rise as early essential workers prepare for the greasing of wheels to turn for the rest. Where is our time for stillness and peace? How can it be that we must fall? The earth is eternal, the earth is all powerful. We are but parasites inhabiting its green fields, tearing them down for concrete pastures which yield nothing but pollution and death. Can we be angry at our own demise? What if there is only transformation? Just as many spray their lawns to rid the weeds and insects come midsummer, nature's cycle must reduce the damage done with each revolution. Our shells deteriorate and become one with the dirt reserved for transporting consciousness to other realities. 'Tis not failure because life isn't linear, but the infinite phases similar to Tarantino setups in 90s Pulp Fiction. One can be as extreme as they want to be when it comes to social isolation and sanitization in times of quarantine, yet it is all in vain if the planet desires a different cycle. The Spanish flu of 1918 failed to see the end of things, just as COVID-19 will fade with a shining from the rising sun. People must fall so there can be rejuvenation. Our time shall come. Yes, our time shall come. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. And thanks to Luanne, and thanks to Eric for being our feature readers tonight, our feature performers tonight. Jason Fickle is going to take us out here at the end. Um, I think I will now thank everyone for tuning in this evening to our first live stream. I think we definitely will try this again in the future. We've talked about it, us Writers Guild folk, about what kind of schedule do we want to keep. We normally had been doing this. Um, we normally have been doing this monthly, and since time has no meaning, and the days sort of slide into and out of each other as one might slide in and out of bed late, um, not really knowing what anything is anymore. I feel pretty confident that we will do this again, but it might not be a Wednesday. It might not be at 6 o'clock. Just keep your eyes peeled and your ears to the ground for more things coming from the Writers Guild of Bloomington. If you'd like to make a donation, feel free to, 3 a.m. That's not a bad idea. Somebody would watch. I might. Um, Definitely go to our website, and if you'd like to make a donation or just sign up for our newsletter, please feel free to do so there. Again, take care of each other and wash your hands, and take care of our local businesses and venues so that when we are out of all this, we have a place to go where we can gather together in person. Jason Fickle is going to take us home. Jason?
Yes, thank you so much, and thanks so much to the Writers Guild, and Tony and Kyle and Joan for having me back at this event. It's so good to hear poetry, and so good to be here, or as Keith Richards once said, it's so good to be anywhere, really. I'd like, this is a song, this is a guitar, actually. I don't get to play out much in public. It's 1990s, made in the Pacific Rim Diarman guitar, but it was painted by this Pakistani truck painter named Hyder Ali, and he painted it here in Bloomington about a year and a half ago. And it was all arranged and made possible by my friend Mark Richardson, who is oftentimes, you can find him on WFHB and so many other places. So I want to send out this last tune to him. And to all of you who've been following along online and everywhere you are. Well, if I still had a Buick, I wouldn't be so cold. I wouldn't need a love like yours when the wind starts to blow. If I still had a Buick, I wouldn't be so cold. And this ain't my doorway, you can come right on in. And this ain't my rocking chair, but God knows you can stay. 'Cause anthracite coal burns like a skylark. My love, baby, finds its way in the dark. So don't come home, baby, unless you're gonna stay. And don't get on your knees, mama, unless you're gonna pray. Well, 'cause anthracite coal burns like a skylark. baby, finds its way in the dark. Well, if I still had a Buick, I wouldn't be so cold. I wouldn't need two eyes like yours watching me grow old. If I still had a Buick, I wouldn't be so cold. If I still had a Buick. Oh, jump on in here, baby, that's right, I said climb right on in. Turn on that radio, 'cause the AM is all you need. There's a guy talking on there tonight all the way from New Orleans, baby, that's right, the Big Easy. And he's talking some Cajun mumbo jumbo so fast I can't even understand a word that guy's saying. But he's talking about a place we used to go every weekend, baby, that's right. Out where the highway meets the gravel road. And all the big stars are there, baby, every weekend, that's right. You got them fabulous Lynn White. Oh, good old Bobby Rush. Tyrone Davis, baby. And Audie Blues Boy White. That's right. And the fabulous Miss Betty Wright. And they got Little Milton too. And sometimes on special weekends, the king of the blues, B.B. King. And they got your favorite singer, baby, that's right, Mr. St. James Infirmary, Mr. Further on up the road, Mr. I Pity the Fool, Mr. Stormy Monday Blues, that's right, the unbelievable Bobby Blue Bland, that's right, baby. Just about every weekend, out where the highway meets the gravel road. Out where the highway meets the gravel road. Thank you all so much. Take care out there.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Jason Fickle. And thanks to Eric Rensberger once again, and Tim Heardink once again, and Luanne Holiday once again. Thanks to all of our feature readers and our feature musician, Jason Fickle. Have a lovely, pleasant evening. It looks like it's shaping up to be a beautiful one, and we will see you all soon. Thanks so much.